Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. And today I'm here with my friend Robert, and we're going to talk about films. As per, we both love films, don't we?
Oh
So
yeah.
let's get into it. Let's get into it straight away. So I've spoken to you before this, and I
Mhm.
wanted to know your favorite film or a film you loved, and you told me it was
Yep. All About Eve
all
from
about
1950.
1950. And why did you find it? Why was it your favorite film?
It's amazing performances. I mean, Betty Davis is an amazing actress.
Yeah,
She's the type. I'd listen to her read the phone book. Um, and there's Thelma Ritter who plays her dresser, kind of is who's like this old guard actress. Who's absolutely amazing. Celeste Holm is her best friend. It's all these really really good actors with a great script.
yeah,
And a story that you're not really sure where it's going to go, and goes to some really interesting places,
yeah.
especially for a movie, a movie of its time, if you think about it.
That's the big thing. Like I say, I watched it after you told me about it, so we had a nice chat about it. But even after you told me, I've watched it and doing the research. This film got the most awards before, like the most awards until Titanic came along.
Yep.
And it was a big film. Like you say, it was mostly due to the dialogue's unbelievable. The writing was so good for it, and
Yep.
the acting is amazing from Betty. The Betty performance is so good,
Yeah.
so good.
And I think if I remember correctly, if I don't know if it still holds the record, I think it was the first film, if they not the only film, to all four with females were nominated. So it's four
Oh,
major
really?
females being
Wow.
nominated. Yeah. So the fact that it's a film about kind of an aging actress, which is
Hmm.
kind of that's very meta because Betty Davis is amazing, that it was actually recognized for that because the males are okay. The males are kind of
I
like
was going to
window
say
dressing.
that it really focuses. I think all the female performances are unbelievable as
Yeah.
well. I think the men do their part is like what they play, but it's all about the women in this, isn't it?
Totally.
It's really good. And I think you were telling me something about it before about how she went through quite a bit of a rough patch before this film.
Yeah,
What happened
she was under contract to Warner Brothers forever, and she went through this horrible legal battle with them. I think she was with them for 18 years or something. So, back from the 30s, when she first started, and that was the whole contract system. So basically, you were a cog in the wheel, and then you were forced to perform, dancing
there?
monkeys. And she tried to get out of her contract, not get out of her contract. She said, "Look, I just want to be able to refuse. If I see a bad film, I don't want to do it." And they're
Yeah.
like, that's not the way the system works. And so she sued them and she lost. So she was kind of like, she was considered box office poison. They
Yeah.
figured, nope, she'll never work again. And then she comes back and with a
Well, yeah,
vengeance.
she. I think she might be. I think she is the best part of this film. She just
Oh,
carries it so well. She plays that character so
yeah,
well.
everybody's working hard to get to near her level, like
Yeah,
even in
yeah.
every scene.
It really is. It really is.
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Um, yeah. So I watched the film recently, and I think you see I rarely watch black and white films. It might be like the third one I've ever seen. So going into it, I was so what's the, like I'm curious more than anything because I've been used. I've grown up on these fast paced, big explosion. That's
Yep.
how I've grown up on. So these films that are kind of slow burners and it's all about the characters. It's something that's I've never really, I didn't grow up on them. Let's say.
Right. And what
But
about also, I'm curious what you thought about the voiceover. So, because it has this very
yeah,
kind
at
of
the start, the
stagey
narrating where it's
voiceover.
the voiceovers in the head. That's when that kind of caught because it's. I wouldn't expect that from a film from the 1950s. It's quite like a modern thing to have a narrator, especially inside the head and know what they're all thinking and
Yep.
stuff. I think that was a really cool start to it. So that got me caught, and then we should probably say what the film's about. It's about it's about a young woman comes in. Uh, she's a starstruck. She wants to become an actress, and she sees this best actress ever, and and then you slowly getting to see it, and you see this older actress maybe losing her way. Well, not losing, just getting older,
Mhm.
and this new one comes in, and you're seeing the hatred and the kind of like jealousy, and you
Mhm.
kind of feel bad for this younger one. But then the whole film kind of flips it on its head,
Oh,
and the
yeah.
more it goes, you're seeing, oh well, actually, and you see little things here and there. You're like, well, this younger woman's actually maybe she is not all there, and then by the end, she's a lying sociopath who's
Yeah.
like,
Yep.
terrible person. She's a terrible person.
And no, and Margot, the main character, kind of sees through her
Margaret,
pretty
yeah.
early. I mean, she's sympathetic to her. Then because she worms herself both into like
Yeah,
her personal and private life.
that's the
Uh,
thing. Yeah,
yeah, and because her personal and private life aren't separate anyway. But all of a sudden, but she sends up the signals, and everyone's like, "Oh, you're just jealous," and she's like,
yeah. Well, even
"Of
I got
course,
that
the
at
only
the start.
reason a
I was
woman
like,
could not,
oh, she's obviously she's just being jealous, and you feel like kind of annoyance towards the Margot. She like just
Yeah.
let her be and stuff, but then
and
I think
she's
it's really
right all
clever
along."
way to do it. Yeah. And I thought there was a really interesting point I would to put on was with all these older films, it's a lot of overreacting, or not overacting, and I didn't think that was a bad thing. I think it's interesting how it felt like it was a show, like it felt like it was on stage.
Yeah.
And I also noticed how they never actually showed the acting. Like they talk about how amazing they both are. Like that's the big part is how amazing they are acting, but they never show it. So I got the feeling that, and they bring up a lot as well that these women are acting even in their life on stage and off stage.
You're right. I mean, it is sort of stagey in a lot of ways. It feels, like it's not a filming of a play, but it's darn close to it. And you're right. Yeah. And until you said that, you see the curtain calls. Like that's all you see, the curtain calls. You never, and you hear the applause, and you go, but you never actually see a performance. You just hear about them.
And it's like we say, she's so amazing, Margot in it, and she even says herself, she's like, oh, a lot of people say they know who I am, but I don't even know who I am. And because she's always so enthralled, even in a home life, and everyone's like annoyed, she's like, just calm down, you need to stop, but she's just constantly doing it.
It's about time we did. It's about time Margot realized that what's attractive on stage need not necessarily be attractive off.
All right. I'm going to bed.
But the new woman, she's acting outside as well, but she's acting a different way. She's pretending to be someone she's not. She's
double bluff.
Yeah. She's acting in a different way, but just as well. And I thought that was a really interesting concept, kind of.
And I think there's a scene in the dressing room early on when Eve, I think, first comes there, when Margot is acting the star. Her dresser, the old woman, Thelma Ritter, she's like, oh brother. She's like, oh, she's like, oh god, she's even still acting here, and
when she first walks in, she's like, oh, here comes the part now. And that first scene's really interesting because even when of the first shot, I had it gives you the thought, because she'll come in and she sits down and she tells a life story to these people who she admires and she can barely speak to, it seems. But then the way it's shot is, you're seeing this person, and I noticed that she actually is brighter than all the other people on the set, and
even though she's drab in a little raincoat,
and they're all sat, and even the old woman comes back and she goes in the back, and everyone's just watching her like it's an audience, and you can tell there straight away. I got the feeling, like that's when I started thinking, oh, this is quite theatre-like. But now I've watched the full thing, it's on purpose. It shows. She's come in and instantly, straight away, she's acting, and she's acting amazing because she's tricked all of them. Which I
she's reeled them all in.
Yeah. And they put little hints. I'm trying to remember all the little hints they put in through. There's one where she comes back out and she's got a dress on and she's doing all this. And
yeah.
I think it's interesting compared to stuff I've seen now. So you, especially with the awards, it won all these awards and all this and everything because of how well it was written and acted, and the characters and character development. And I think it's interesting to see that compared to films nowadays, where you win awards for that. Obviously, you win awards for the same thing, but I think with today's audiences, it's a lot more. You can't focus on just dialogue. You'll get bored. All these millennials and Gen Zs, they've got attention spans like this, like me. So
and it's a long film. I mean,
it is 2 hours. It was 2 hours. It's really long, that one. And
I did tell you, and I thought you were going to be like, oh my god, how long? But it's 2.5 hours, 2.5 hours or something.
2 hours 15. I think.
But it does keep going. I mean, you're just kind of drawn in by it. It's brilliant.
And that's what it means. So you see in films these days are long. You'd expect that because they have all this CGI and they've got all this like green screen and they can just push films along with this. But they've done 2 hours of just pure talking.
There's no battle scene. Well, there's a couple of small battles, but there's no big battle scene. There's no March of the Thousand Armies or anything like that.
So I thought it'd be good to compare it to modern films, or the closest I could think to the overall theme of the film. So acting, really. So I got Birdman, which won loads of awards. Just like this, and it's another one where it's kind of about stage acting, and I know he's kind of losing it, and it's, you know, the battling, and you can see how the director and the other actors butt heads, but they show it in such a different way, and I think it's like, well, Birdman, if you don't know, is one continuous shot, so it doesn't stop at all, and that's why I think it won all of these awards. And I think films these days need that kind of gimmick, or if you need to be above the rest, you can't just have good dialogue anymore, and you can't just have good character development. You need to have something else. So have one shot all the way through. But also,
and you have to advertise that beforehand, so to get people into the seats, or pay for the tickets, or rent it, or whatever. Yeah. And Once Upon a Time in America too, which again is like the inside story, you know, which I saw with my brother, who's also a huge film nut, and it was again it was all about the dialogue and just these characters. I mean, Brad Pitt, I you know, I've always liked his performances, you know, but not a huge fan and not an anti-fan. But he was compelling, you know, and then you realize like he's just this lackey for this kind of dirtbag.
Yeah.
You know, he goes back to his little tiny, you know, place, and you're like, he's just amazing throughout. He's just so natural.
It is great. Well, yeah, that's a great film to bring, a great film to compare, because, like you say, the dialogue is basically the full film is kind of the same thing. You've got this actor who was kind of big and he's kind of losing it, and then but it's about just him and what they're feeling. Yeah. And I thought I could really see a lot of similarities, not a lot of similarities, but the way it's like, you know, it's the same kind of thing. Yeah. Old actor getting out and then, you know, trying to find his way back in, or trying to.
And also the behind the scenes stuff that you see, that, you know, this is, he really is pretty crap, and, you know, he wasn't really very. And this, you actually see some of the acting, and you're like, oh, okay.
But I think it's interesting to compare that film. So it has all the things that It's All About Eve has, about the dialogue, but because of modern day, you need that action part. So of course you need the trailers. So they've got like a Bruce Lee kind of person. Got you know, Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt throwing around, and you've got like a Charles. You have to have a Charles Manson.
You have the Charles Manson.
You can't just have a contained story anymore. You have to have like Charles Manson murdering family. You have to have. And
I like because there's sort of this like alternative Hollywood, you know, when you sit there and go, when you sort of, if you didn't know, I'm trying to think I think I sort of knew about it roughly, but like you kind of go, oh, that's the Crazy Neighbors. Oh boy,
that's really good, because it's like the whole film's a real slow burner. But I loved it. I know I know a few people had problems with it being slow, but I think that I saw the beginning just the same as I loved It's All About Eve. It's just you get character development, and they really get into the nitty gritty with even Brad Pitt's character. Who, you know, he's not even got much about him. He's just a kind of dude. He's just kind of a guy that's
compelling. You can't take your eyes off. You know, it's just
he'll go home and feed his dog or do some work on the house.
Exactly.
And you're like,
that's what I remember. Yeah.
But you know, you need those. You need to. Well, it was Quentin Tarantino as well, so he's got to live up to his expectations. And if you've not seen the film, the last 15-20 minutes it goes from like 2 to 1,000. It's just
kind of like
which is, I think that's a really good kind of coming together of the two, like olden films and new films. I assume that's what he was trying to go for. Now thinking about it, he got what he wanted with the dialogue and the characters, but you know, he can also squeeze in, you know, modern day. Here you go. You sat for all this. Now you're gonna get a can in the face, and a dog's gonna bite your head off. And then, you know, he comes out with a flamethrower right at the end.
It's almost like, oh yeah, you came for a Tarantino film. All right, I'll give you a Tarantino film. Here's the Tarantino brand at the end. You know, okay, here you go.
Anyway, it's been lovely talking to you. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks a lot. And get good recommendations from you too. That's great.
We'll have to go over and watch her and talk about them. But yeah, that's cool. Definitely. Thank you.
All right, cool. Thanks, George. Bye-bye.
We'll call it there. Cool.